All right, we're getting closer and closer to the NFL draft. It is now a month away, but the next important dates on the NFL calendar isn't that draft that's going to be taking place in Green Bay. It's over the weekend when every general manager, every owner, every coach will be in Florida for the NFL annual meeting. So, of course, for the 49ers, that means Jed York will be there, John Lynch will be there, and Kyle Shanahan. And so they'll be available to the media. I'll be able to speak with each of those gentlemen on days early next week. But for the 49ers, from their standpoint, the most significant day coming up would have to be Tuesday, April 1st. That is when Brandon Aiyuk is due an option bonus. And there was talk early in the season, early in the offseason, about a potential trade. Could the 49ers look to deal him? And when John Lynch was asked about that in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine, he gave the standard answer of we will listen to any team that wants to talk basically about any player. But in the course of that answer, he then pivoted quickly to the whole idea of the financial situation that the 49ers find themselves under. And obviously, the upcoming contract for Brock Purdy, potential extension for George Kittle. But Ayuk is a guy that, a year ago at this time, it was a rough off season. And eventually Brandon Ayuk asked for a trade more from a negotiating standpoint, as we found out, because he really didn't show much of an urgency to get anything done. The hold in lasted through training camp, and the 49ers had trades worked out in serious negotiations with three teams, the Patriots, the Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then after the preseason was over, after the weekend heading into the first week of the regular season, they kind of put the screws to Brandon Aiyuk and a contract offer that had been sitting out there for 17 days. He agreed to it. And so the union went on 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. But clearly it seemed to be fractured through the course of that. And Aiyuk played in 7 games. His production wasn't what the 49ers had hoped it would be. But then again, he didn't have a training camp. So what'd you expect? He had one really good game that came against Arizona. He had 147 yards receiving, but then a couple of down games, including that game against Kansas City where he sustains the torn ACL, the torn MCL, and maybe some other damage in there. So as of now, his availability to start the season is a little bit in question. And so, would the 49ers be interested in trading Brandon Aiyuk? Well, I don't believe they're making phone calls to try to trade him, but they are certainly listening to anybody who does call him. And you just wonder what the interest would be around the league in Ayuk. What I've been told is that things aren't exactly heating up. There's not like teams knocking on the door trying to get him. And when you look around the league, some teams that might have wanted him have probably moved on and gotten other players. But with the people gathering in Florida, like I mentioned, every coach, GM, and owner, if things are going to heat up, I would think they would over the weekend. And then that date of April 1 is really kind of a pivotal day because I think if he's on the roster on April 1, that's when an option bonus is due to him. I don't think he's going anywhere. So he is guaranteed to make $24.025 million this season. 22.855 of that will come in the form of that option bonus. So the idea from the 49ers standpoint would be to, if you're going to trade him before you have to pay that dollar amount. Now, I spoke to an NFL agent who represents wide receivers, and he told me, this same person told me a while back, he would expect Deebo Samuel to get traded. He did get traded. He doesn't expect the 49ers to trade Brandon Aiyuk because some of the reasons. He says what the 49ers could do to make it easier to trade him would be to pick up some of that that guarantee, that option bonus. And he didn't think the 49ers would do that. He didn't think that all sides would be working together to get that accomplished. In essence, kind of rewrite the contract a little bit. Um, the 49ers are part of a NFC West that has seen a lot of movement at the wide receiver position. And it's kind of funny. I mean, you look at the guys who have changed places, and by the latest person, the latest wide receiver isn't a NFC West guy, but the latest receiver to agree to a big money contract. That's Stephon Diggs. The Patriots signed him 3 years, 69 million. That's being reported by some of the national guys. And the Patriots, one of those teams that were interested in Deebo Samuel or interested in Brandon Aiyuk a year ago. But when you look at the top receivers, the guys who have switched teams this year, this offseason, it's Devontae Adams going to the Rams. It's Cooper Kupp going to the Seahawks as free agents. It's DK Metcalf being traded from the Seahawks to the Steelers, and it's Deebo Samuel being traded, of course, from the 49ers to the Commanders. So that leaves kind of a thin wide receiver market out there with the top free agents available: Keenan Allen, Mari Cooper, and Tyler Lockett. 49ers, their only addition as far as wide receivers on the veteran market, they signed former Rams receiver Demarcus Robinson, 2 years, $8 million. So Ayuk it's an interesting situation because when I mentioned those teams that were interested in him last year, the Patriots got their guy. They got their number one guy in Diggs. The Steelers got their number one guy in DK Metcalf, and that leaves the Browns. I know there were some rumblings over the weekend about the Browns. I don't, I checked in with some people I know in Cleveland who really weren't sure where that came from, the validity of that. So I don't know that that is something that the Browns are all that eager or would be eager at all to get Brandon Aiyuk because he spurned them last year. They had a huge offer in place to acquire him, but Ayuk showed no desire to go the Browns. So, a year later, I don't think that Brandon Aiyuk would be changing his mind about going to the Browns. The difference is last year he would have had to sign off on that deal, have the new contract in hand in order for that trade to go through. Now the trade could be made. However, if you're the Browns, do you really want to sign somebody who doesn't want to be on your team? So that's why I'm thinking, along with the agent who represents wide receivers, thinking that Brandon Aiyuk isn't going anywhere. Uh, the 49ers have some work to do. There's no question about it as far as just filling out their roster. There was an interesting observation. That same agent said that he noticed during the combine that the 49ers were very active and along with the Rams, those teams were the most active, kind of behind the scenes of doing a lot of hunting, trying to get market information around the NFL and such guys for the 49ers who were out there kind of making themselves seen and trying to get information about the league, doing their homework, the homework that's their jobs, right? But John Lynch, Tariq Ahmad, Brian Hampton, Josh Williams, guys in the 49ers front office. Those guys were in particular shopping and trying to get market information. So that's where you start to see the connections or the homework being done, the behind the scenes maneuvering to see what market value would be for a Brandon Aiyuk, what the market would be for free agents who are out there. And so, the 49ers have played this thing very cautiously. And the same person told me that it wasn't necessarily probably trying to get information on the top of the market guys, but the second and third wave guys. And so I would consider Demarcus Robinson being somebody that would fit into that group because when you look at the 49ers wide receiving position, Demarcus Robinson, he's healthy. However, there is some questions about his availability for early in the season because of the potential of facing league discipline for a violation of the league's policy on substances of abuse. There's Jawan Jennings, who has 1 year left on his contract. He's healthy. He's ready to go. From all indications, Ricky Pearsall entering his second season, healthy, ready to go. Jacob Cowing, who really didn't get much run last year as a wide receiver, but certainly is the guy who fits in right now as their primary return man, both kickoffs and punts, those guys. And then the question is Brandon Aiyuk. And I think we'll get some more information this coming week over the weekend and early next week about where Brandon Aiyuk is specifically as far as the rehab, the physical therapy, and potentially even a timetable on when he could get back on the field for the 49ers. And obviously, any potential trade partner, they would need to know that before a deal is made and before they even get very far into those negotiations. It's kind of a similar thing, I guess, with New England and Stephon Diggs because he's coming off an ACL, but the Patriots needed a number one receiver, and it looks like they got it. How many games they can get him for, that remains to be seen. So, kind of the big takeaway from this one is just where the 49ers are with wide receivers. When I talked to John Lynch at the combine, he talked about the draft. That was before they signed Demarcus Robinson. But with 11 draft picks, with 8 picks in the top 160, the 49ers will have an opportunity to add a young wide receiver. Um, but we will see as far as what they do with Brandon Aiyuk. Again, I think he stays with the team. I just don't know what that market would be for him for another team wanting to pick up that contract, as well as take on the uncertainty of not knowing how he's going to respond after having the ACL injury and what his availability will be early in the season. So the main takeaway is 49ers did give him a big signing bonus last year, and now it's salaries beginning this year of 24 million that stays, 24, 25, 26, 27 million through the term of his contract. The question would be, and maybe this helps the 49ers if they really want to deal him, if they want to kind of rid themselves of that future salary. This doesn't look like a super class of wide receivers. Last year's class looked better. The year before that looked better. And so this would be a little bit of a down year, I think, for wide receivers, teams looking to get a quality receiver. So that would theoretically increase the value of Brandon Aiyuk or a trade. So we will have an idea, I would assume. There will be news coming later in the week, later next week, early next week, as far as those updates on specific players, how they're coming along from a health standpoint, and if it looks like any trade talks are heating up because everybody will be in Florida at the same location in Palm Beach, West Palm Beach. And so we'll probably have some news as far as that goes. But the takeaway is one more week until the 49ers would have to pay that very high, significant option bonus. And if they're able to make that deal on or before March 31st, then the team that they would be making that trade with would then pick up the financial liability as far as what's owed to Brandon Aiyuk. All right, so that's the quick update here. Thanks for tuning in to this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like, leave a comment, and that's it for now.